Mānawa mai e a te putanga o Matariki. Mānawa mai e a te ariki nui o te rangi. Mānawa mai e a te mātahi o te tau. Nau mai, tomo mai, ki tēnei whare kōrero, e kia nei, ko Seeds of Matariki. Akāti, tēnā, kia rukutia tā tātou kaupapa, kia ruiruia o tātou whakaaro, ki ngā pūkenga, ki ngā wānanga, ki ngā purapura o Matariki. Ko Matariki tērā e ārau mai ana i te pai, te whetū tapu o te tau. Ko Pūhutukawa kei runga, ko Mark Kopua tēnei e tau nei. Haere mai, nau mai, haere mai ki tā tātou kaupapa a Seeds of Matariki. E te pāpā, kei te pēhea koe.
Tēnō pai te noho i Wharenui a koutou, me te kaupapa whakahireira. Arere e pai tēnei.
Tēnā koe. Tuatahi ake, whakamōhio mai ki te hunga, ai whakarongo mai ana ki a tāua. Ko wai koe, o tirā nōhea koe.
Ko Mark Kopua, no te tai rāwhiti nui tonu, engari i tipu anō au i te tai riu ko Māngai tuna te ingo te riura. Mātou tonu ko te reanga i tipu i reira, ko te toenga o te tehi reanga i tīmata hoki te aruaru i roto i ngā taone ki te kimi oranga kimi mahi anō mō rātou mō te whānau anō. Engari ka noho tūturu hoki nei mātou ki te kāinga i te taho o ngā tipuna. Ia mātou i reira ngā toenga nei i riro katoa ki a mātou ngā tohuto o mātou tipuna ki a mātou, nā reira i tipu anō i runga i te marae. Ngā marae o te kāinga, i tipu anō hoki i raro i ngā tikanga me ngā tohuto o rātou. Me pēhe hoki nei mātou te noho i tērā i te whenua, me pēhe anō hoki mātou i te noho i te tahatai moana. E rātu momo āhuatanga katoa tuku iho mai o tātou mātou tipuna. Nā reira ko te waimari e rawa atu tērā, aha koa i porohai anō mātou mō ngā mea pakeke o mātou ko haere ki pōneke rānō, ki tāmaki rānō, i waimari anō hoki mātou i te tipu i te wākainga. I tipu anō hoki i te haukainga. Nā ko mātou nei hapu, karangatanga hapu a iwi o te kāinga rā ko Ngāti Āwhia, ko tētahi hapu tērā o Ngāti Ira, tētahi atu iwi o te kāinga o te tai rāwhiti. Ko Ngāti Whakairo, tētahi hapu o te aitanga hauiti he iwi anō tērā o roto o Wharenui a rua matua putanoa. Tai atu hoki ki Tokomaru, ko tōku hapu i reira ko te whānau a rua taupare, ko te iwira ko Ngāti Parau. Nā reira ka e toru nei ngā iwi, e toru nei ngā hapu, engari he maha ngā maunga, he maha ngā awa, e rā tūmomo karangatanga hononga o mātou. Nā reira, o tōku koe rā hau, ko Mark Kopua, he tangata e hari nei ngā kōrero i waimari au te whiwhi i o mātou tipuna. Me te ahuatanga anō hoki i kuhu atu au ki roto i ngā mai toi. Nā reira, mea te tangata e kuhu atu ki tērā umanga toi, me kaha tunu koe ki te ruku i ngā kōrero tawhito o tātou mātou tipuna, kia whaitikanga o mahi. A reira ka noho tunu a hau māua tunu ko Derek i te taha o tērā o ngā korau o te kāinga moni tau mānu. I ako anō hoki i ngā kōrero e pāna ki te Whakairo. I noho anō i etahi atu o ngā mātanga pēra i Auntie Ngoi, rātau tērā reanga, I kaha te hari I tēnā wahanga, o tō tātou Māoritanga, o te Ngāti Purautanga, te Tairāputitanga, e rā tu ahuatanga katoa. Arera, ko ahau tērā.
Ko tō mai te rā, I te tairāwhiti tēnei kaupapa, nō reira tēnā rawa atu koe he te pāpā. I rongo au I roto I tō kōrero, you grew up around the old people.
Aye.
And you were privy to all of the kōrero tukuhio, for all of the pūrakau that, I guess, shaped the mindset or the way of thinking and the way of being.
Aye.
And as you reflect, what were some of the things, did you know what was happening at that time, or were you just a tamaiti nohi and just there, just enjoying, or what was the whole āhua for you back there if you were to reflect?
Oh, there's a little bit, because I maharatono I ngā ata, we'd be sitting there in the kitchen having breakfast. And tō mātou kāinga is about 7-8 miles away from the beach. And the old fellow would come out and he'd look out the front window. And we just kids, right? And next minute, ka ki mai kia mātou, oh, gee, the sea is rough. And he's looking at the front paddock and we're all sitting there thinking, how the heck does he know the sea is rough? It's 8 miles away. Like this. And so, ka tipu roti ia mātou nei te hārapatanga. Oh, how does he know this? And so ka puta atu ai e te kāinga. And then we asked the old lady, how does he know that looking? She goes, have a look at the front paddock. And so as kids, we'd all go to the window and have a look. And the front paddock used to be covered in seagulls.
Oh.
And nā reira, ka ki te hoki nei ngā tohu o te taiao. And there's simple things like that we grew up and, tō mātou long drop, you had to go at night, especially ma te mimi tonu koe, you either just go outside or ma te tiko koe. But as you walked along at night, and if you were crushing snails under your feet, ka ki mai ngā mea pakeke ngā tipunara, always going to be a good 3, 4 fine days ahead of us because the snails are on the ground as opposed to being up the wall. So you just learn this sort of like tacit knowledge as you go as a child. And of course things, at first it's like you don't really take too much notice of it. And when Gabriel turned up, I went to feed my hens and I came back and he kita anō hoki the Tapu way ngata going up the side of the shed. And at first I didn't take any notice, but when I looked up to the eave of the shed, it was packed with snail. And so nā reira tunu ka hoki te whakaaro, right, we're in for a big storm.
Wow.
Because ngā tohu o te taiao kei reira. And so that's really just as children, as a child, you learn simple little things like that. And then you carry that with you until it becomes a handy tool in your later life to be able to understand the taiao and live at one with it. And koe ra ke waku kōrero ki ngā tangata ako nei ki tērā mai. And I will, try to say to them, the animals that rely on the environment are the ones that you watch because they tell you what's
happening.
What's happening. And don't rely on Mark Kopua to tell you what's happening. Rely on the snails and the frogs and all those little animals that live in there.
Wow.
Yeah, so koe waku, tohu ki ngā mea pirangi te ako I tērā mai.
Wow. So I te wā e tamaiti ana, koe e pake ke haere ana, kua rongo koe ngā kōrero, mai tōkau mātua, mai o tipuna. And it's not until you're having the experience yourself, ka taka te kapa it's sort of like, so that's what the old fella was talking about.
That's what they were on about.
Wow.
Yeah, even tai atu hoki ki te maramatanga, those certain things. And hard to get on it because when it came back to now and there's such a long, strong focus on maramatanga, maramataka, and all that, and meanau ki taku hoa waine. Gee, when I was a child, I really couldn't give a bugger buggery about it. I said, but now I'm having this intimate relationship. I'm going back to having some sort of relationship with the maramatanga and how to understand, i marama tonu au, not te huri a te marama, ka huri anō te moana. And to understand that he wai katoa te moana, and ko te tangata anō hoki he wai.
Ai.
And so the influence that the maramatanga has over water, or the marama has over water, is quite significant. And when the penny drops with that, you understand why your emotions and thoughts and feelings and behaviours are influenced by the moon. Nā reira tonu ki te ao pāke ko te lunatic.
Te lunatic, ai.
Yeah.
Wow, tika katoa, i rā kōrero. So, the moon controls the tides and the waters, and if we're made up of majority of water, of course it's going to have that same kind of effect on us. Ne?
Yes, as well.
And so, as you're growing up, there was also what would it be? Might have been like something within you that pulled you towards doing mahi toi.
Aye.
What was that for you? Was it there just a keen interest, or was it just something that you just were naturally good at, or what was it about the space of toy arts that drew you into that?
I think at first I just naturally was pulled toward it. My creative spark was sparked by imagery. Haere anō mātou tamariki ana ki ngā prakati o mātua in the kapahaka that we had at home, and of course that sparked a desire for performing art and wanting to be like them, to imitate them, and ka kita hoki au i ngā mea tāne hakana, and of course that's it fanned a flame inside of me, and I got so excited that I wanted to be like my uncles and all that sort of thing. So I was naturally drawn to that. And then of course he nui ngā hoku mātua tipuna ka hari hara au ki runga i ngā marae me ngā hui katoa I reira. And I saw all the art in the marae, and I thought, gee, this is fabulous. And I'd lie there for ages,
Wow.
following the kōwhaiwhai panels and miri haere nei ngā Whakairo. And that's what sparked the desire, the creative flame in me to become part of that world. And of course, and it just carried on into my college years. And then I tōku waimari te tei matua o te tei oku hoa. He was a tohunga Whakairo, and so he saw me ruining all the broom handles with knives and whatnot. So he thought, no tata mai ai ki te boarding school ra. So he said, I can help you. I'll show you how to use a chisel properly. And next minute, ka mutu au I te kura. And I just went straight into Whakairo, and then sat alongside tērā o ngā tohunga moni tā manu, tohu mai ki awa, ngā Kōrero tawhito e hāngai ana ki tērā kaupapa. And so it eventuated that I just stayed there. I was comfortable. I was satisfied. I roto I te ao toi, Māori, and had a lot of good friends who were also strong in that area, and we could motivate one another. And someone comes along and they ask you to do a commission, and then that's the reward that you get for being diligent in that space and whatnot. And of course the other really added bonus is that when you sit beside somebody like Monita Manu and ka rongo hoki koe I ngā whakapapa me ngā kōrero tawhito, and that was sparked as well.
Because that's speaking to your wairua, all of that kōrero
and your whakapapa and all that. And so I really wanted to kuhu into that. And I also understood that if I did kuhu into that, it built a a confidence in other people, with me understanding that mea ka hare I te peka Whakairo, it would be to carve houses for different hapu. And so that hapu had to be confident that they're picking the right man. So be able to recite whakapapa, to be able to kōrero, inga kōrero tawhito, all those things were good, just as much as good a chisel as the one in your bag.
Wow.
And so I really rukued into that sort of stuff, and then it led me to te ruku I ngā kōrero tawhito, ma ngā wānanga tawhito, me ngā Pūrakau tawhito, Pūrakau Atua. And I think one of the things was that tōku waimari I tupu au I te reo. And that was one fortunate thing for me. Although again, it was like many other things, I just took it for granted, but it was, I found one of the key tools that allowed me to open up wānanga with ngā mea pakake. So that also meant that in one particular job that I ran into another tohunga who had although I rongo nui ai I te tai hauauru, he pāngā no hoki tāna ki roto o uawa o tōku kāinga I te tai rāwhiti. So we struck up this good relationship, and ko taua tipuna o taniwa he tohunga matua mo te tai hauauru I tērā wā ruka Broughton. And so that really took me on a journey about Atua Māori and understanding Atua Māori as the taiao environment is Atua Māori, and not necessarily, te atua pērā I roto I te hahi. And so that was something that really tweaked my curiosity and a desire to learn more about that, to understand te ao Māori.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so your mahi toi, the creative spark was sparked.
Yeah.
And you're looking at all of these different whakairo that were creating a sense of curiosity, but also a space to connect ki a koe anō. And learning all of, so there's one thing to do it, ne? But then when you learn the kōrero as to why you do it and how you do it, does that just give so much more of an element? Because when I hear your kōrero as well, I've got kōrero that I've heard where you've carved, is it 8 whare? 7 whare?
Yeah.
And when we think about what a Wharenui represents for te ao Māori, there's so much kōrero in a Wharenui. And so for you learning all of that and knowing that it's going to be there for all of the tikanga, going to be there to warm the hapu, to be the whare for our mate, everything. And so it's not a pathway that comes lightly, ne? It's something that comes with a lot of, what does it come with a lot of when you think about it?
Well, you have a responsibility. To the people. And I've tried throughout those 7 houses to give good advice, not necessarily to make a decision for them, and no rātou ke te whare, and no rātou anō te mana whakatau me pēhea, but I have to, it's my duty and responsibility to give them the right advice so that they can make advised decisions. And sometimes I just take it into my own hands and just say, no, buggy, your fellas are going down the wrong path, that sort of thing. And at the same time, you don't want to be able to strip them of that responsibility. And so I try hard not to take that away from them.
Wow.
And but it was tough. That job is tough, especially working with Evie, because of the burden of responsibility that's there in that in those tasks. And of course, like I say, you have to become fully equipped with knowledge and advice, and you have to study their whakapapa so that you are picking the right tipuna for tō rātou whare, and that there's all sorts of
so much need.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's and then that's ko te mo ngā whakairo ke tera, And then you got to look at the tuku panels, and then you got to look at the kōwhaiwhai panels, and the same thing.
Whoa.
3 times over. So you have to make good decisions for a large project.
Wow. Far out. That's tough, being able to do 7 whare in your lifetime, and then all of the kōrero that comes with it, and because that's what Whakairo is, it's storytelling.
It's storytelling.
It's getting all of the kōrero that you're getting either from the hapu, from niwi, from the whānau, and then you're putting it into the format that our tupuna used there was Whakairo. And then did that naturally move you into doing tā moko? Was like, how did that transition happen?
That was a slow one, a slow transition. I think I was in my mind. I so loved Whakairo that it took a little while for me to. Well, just recently, he tūta tō symposium, and the thing.
Moko ne?
Moko, yeah. And the thing was that at the beginning of my journey, it was a very, very, hazy road ahead of me. I really didn't have a lot of example for me to be able to make those clear decisions. Nothing was clear. And so it was a slow journey for me to get even just the bravery to go down a murky path. And then, of course, after that, once you've breached that and then go down it, you have to have confidence again. You have to rebuild your confidence. And after 7 houses, 7 houses was fine by then, but now you got to relearn.
Do it again.
Do it all again.
For a different path.
Yeah, for a slightly different path. And so it was quite slow. But in the end of the day, there were a couple of things that happened. Kia hautonu. I hāre atua hau ki the Dominion Museum, I mua I te papa. And I roto I te tau ngā ruma I reira was a series of, and they never used to lock their upoko tuhi away. They were just in a case, and but there was a bunch of, I'm not too sure whether they were Lindows or Goldies that had, paintings or tātou tipuna on them. And when I felt as though I was being watched, and I turned around and there they were. And it was like some sort of spiritual connection or some sort of connection saying to me, affirming you're on the right pathway. You need to bring us back into this world like that. And so that really affirmed a decision for me to make a decision to actually go down the path of doing moko and stop being stubborn and keep me from, repeatedly saying, no, I'm staying on the Whakairo path. And so then I just sort of really aro nui ki te huarahi moko.
Moko.
Yeah.
Far out. Especially in those times near. Because like you said, there were no examples, there wasn't anything happening at that time. And so being a part of the original kāhui to, bring moko back, and being at the symposium moko ora, there must have been a great time for you to sort of like see ngā hua I puta mai I te timatanga ne, mai I te timatanga.
Yeah, eternal, proud of Atua.
Te nui o ngā kaitai nai nei.
And alive and really, really sharp practitioners. Just so pleased to know when you look at how the numbers and the quality, then you know that 100 years from now, ka ora tonu te moko. Yeah.
And you've also got which is a kōrero that I really want to get into, is storytelling. Being able to tell stories is such a beautiful art, and being able to convey a message and being able to, I guess, have an influence or share ways to help people connect. When you think about storytelling, and what comes to mind for you, or is that a space that you really enjoy being? Because it sounds like you're someone who enjoys receiving kōrero, kōrero mai o tupuna, kōrero mai o mahita, mai o tohunga. And so now you're in that role where you have all of this mātauranga, and storytelling aside from Whakairo, Moko, that's another way, ne? It's
Mm.
another creative path then. So when you're sharing your kōrero, are you just sharing kōrero that you've heard, or do you add your own lived experience to it, or is it whatever is needed at that time?
I think one of the things that I love to do, and I love telling stories, and I, even receiving stories, and even as a child receiving Cinderella and Red Riding Hood, all those, they were good, but they didn't have a, other than the theme of that story, there was nothing that really grabbed me. It didn't resonate as much as stories about o tātou atua, those stories. And I think part of it was that, the first time that I actually saw a whakapapa table, and at the top of it was rangi nui rā ko Papa Tūnako, and I thought, that's the sky and the earth, and then ka whai haere nei aku whatu, ka tai atu huki ki tōku pāpa, and I thought, my goodness, this is a real thing, because I'm underneath that. Mm-hmm. And that really resonated with me. That woke something up inside of me to be curious about Ranginui and Papa Tūnako, and then all those other tipuna like Tāne Mā, Rātauma. And so that became my journey I don't know, I might have been, I can't remember how old I was at the time, but it sparked that journey to investigate, to ruku I roto I e rā kōrero. And not of course, not all of it has been, kare no kia ura wātu huki ki ngā ingoa e rā, because there's quite a few, but yeah, it really, I loved the stories that came with it. Those stories helped me to remember the whakapapa. And there's just so many stories that are, and of course I also learned to understand that there are variations, that we're quite varied in our views and our beliefs, and so those different versions of I learned over the years was to accept them all, as opposed to whittle them down to one version that would be seen as the truth. And eventually, when I accepted, taking on board all versions, for me that became the truth. And so they were no longer myth and rubbish to me. They were our whakapapa. And I've been trying hard over the years to eliminate anything that threw doubt on our whakapapa, so that we would stop calling them myths and legends, and that they became our whakapapa, they became our history, and that's our viewpoint and our belief, and anything that said it was humbug was humbug. And so it's been quite an uplifting, a soul lifting, journey to be a storyteller, and more so to be able to share those stories with different people, because at a certain point in time I kept thinking to myself, oh, hikama, what am I going to do with all these stories? Am I taking them with me? Where's the opportunity for me to be able to leave them for the next reo? And they become something that guides our next 100 years, by using the past 2,000 years to guide the next 100. And so I was so fortunate I tūtaki ai māua ko Diana, nā ka moe māua, ka tipu ia māua, tō māua kaupapa, tō tātou kaupapa. And it was there that it became the whāriki for me to be able to leave these stories for the next lot of people, and leave the whakapapa that. And I always try to say, kau e riro mā ngā kōrero a Mark Kopua, o kōrero, o whakaaro e tinihanga. Stay true to what you have learnt and live by that. And so, I love telling stories. I love receiving stories. Ka haere ate ai mātou ki te iwi ke. And they have their version, and I'm always open. Kōrero mai tō version, because I'm just as open and curious to learn that version as much as I am holding out.
Holding.
Yeah.
Because when you're hearing different versions, there's similarities, but there's also differences.
Aye.
And that suggests that is how things are in a sense, right? There's a common thread, and different people have a different view on it, but these are the variations that we're hearing when we're going around and hearing different kōrero mai tēnā iwi. And, ko tēnei kaupapa e pāna ki a Matariki, o ti rā ko te whetū e hangai ana ki a koe mo tēnei kaupapa ko Pōhutukawa. Kei a koe e tahi Pūrakau, e tahi kōrero, e pāna ki tēnei whetū tapu o te tau o whetū tapu o te rangi. Do you have any kōrero around Matariki or Pōhutukawa?
Kei te mua ko te whakahua te tahi. O mātou o te kāinga o Mataariki.
Mataariki.
Koera e harai te mea ko ka noho matua tērā whakahua i a mātou. But koera I tipu pērā ke te whakahua. Mataariki. E nā rangi anō hoki mātou I whakaoho, tērā o mātou I whakaoho. Iwhala so te tairawhiti ka pērā ke me te tika anō hoki te whakahua tērā kupu Mataariki. Kare tau I te nuinga o te motuka o Matariki. Engari, koera he version anō tērā. Nā mō tērā e harai te mea ka tipu ka hoki a hau I roto I tērā tuwā huatanga o Mataariki. Engari ka rongo tonu I tō mātou pāpā e kōrero ana mō ngā tohu o te wā. Koia te mea I pupuria I era o ngā kōrero. And ka mutu mai ana ka kite hoki na ka ata mātakitaki haere ai I te rangi me ngā whetūra. Ana ka riro mai kia aia e tahi tohu mō mātou, mō te tauhou.
Whoa.
And nā reira ka takina mai e rā o ngā tohu kia mātou mō te roanga atu o te tau. Me te harai te mea ka whakahaerengia te hautapu e rā tuā huatanga katoa I tērā wā. Engari ka mutu mai I reira ko te pāpā nei ka ata titiro atu I ngā ata ki ngā whetūra. Koe te me, ko ngā tohu, koe te me I titiro ana ki te pere ki muara e rā tohu o te taiao. Nā reira ko te Mataariki nei, ko Pōhutukawa tonu nei, he whetū. Me te aku mārama, ko te nuinga no atu o tātou atua, ka noho whetū. Ai. I te wā I hara mai, I tuatahi mai a rangi ki paitana hara mai ki te tairawhiti. Nā te mea I whakaoho I roti I a mātou e tahi o ngā kōrero tawhito. Ia e kōrero ana ka oho anō te tehi whakaaro I roti a ua morehua. I te mutunga iho o tona kauhau, ka riro māku, ka riro mai ki awa, tōna te mihi whakamutunga ki ae. Me te mea ka ki atu au ki ae, e rangi. I oho te whakaaro I roti awa, I a koe kōrona, morehua, mo te tehi wahanga o mātou karakia mō horuta. E mea ana te kōrona nei whakarere ki tai mā rehua. Ki wahotaku hoi nei ko rapangate a te nuku, ko rapangate a te rangi. Nā ka mea ia, e roa nei au e kāre e tino te māramatanga mō tērā kōrero. E nāi nei, kei te rongo au I a koe ana ka te māramatanga. And so I said to him, ka moa tau tātou kia rehua. Tū mai a rehua i te rangi. And ka ki atu e nei kōrero, go follow this the pathway across the sea by pursuing rehua. And so I said, so that means, you have to when you cross the ocean, coming from Hawaii, you follow the rehua star. I said, nā reira ka mārama tonu a hau I haramai ai a horota I te wā o te rongonui, I te wā o te tihama.
Mm.
Because koera te wā I tū mai ai a rehua. And I said, and then ka ki mai ki waho taku hoe. And I said, and that would make you think that we're talking about paddles, steering paddles. And I said, and it's not wrong. But I said, ko rapanga te ate nuku, rapanga te ate rangi, he whetū ke era. I said, so in the waho direction, so you keep rehua in one direction and waho direction, you make sure those two stars are in that space all the time in your land at Aotearoa.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, so I said, so, tino mihi tēnei ki a koe, nā te mea ioho tērā māramatanga I roto I awa. So what it then showed to me or affirmed to me was the knowledge that our tipuna, like as in ngā atua, were placed by our tipuna I te tātai arorangi. That they were placed in those spaces there. And of course, ko te mea pakeke o Matariki rao ko rehua, ana ko Pōhutukawa.
Pōhutukawa.
Me te mea nei, ko te pipiri me te haratua, te wā I puta mai te kanoi o e rao ngā whetū. Engari ko Pōhutukawa I puawai a te tiham.
Oh.
Nā reira, ahakoa I kānapana mamaina I te wā o pipiri me haratua, ko tōna tū ki te whenua hei te tiham. Te marama tonu ki a mātou ko te tatau urutai. Tatau uruora. And he whetū anō era. O tērā wā. So, hakoa kei te teo ngā kōrero tuia ki te rangi, tuia ki te whenua, tuia ki te mona. And we know, ka pua wai mai nā Pōhutukawa, era ko momona ke ngā kina. Mea kai ka noho tonu koe I te taha tai moana, ara ke te tō mea kai tua whenua koe, ana ko te pua waitanga mai o te kōwhai. Ka marama tonu koe, ana ko riri ke ngā kina, e rā tohu o te tai ao.
O te tai ao.
Engari ko te Pūrakau nei ka taku mōheo, e mahara tonu au I tō mātou dad, e mihi ana I te wā o haratua, mō ngā mate I haere, and of course e hala I te mea ka karangatia notia te ingoa. A tō mātou dad ka karangatia ngā whanaunga ona, and ka pīgi tangi. No te mea, kai te marama I nānei, ko taua karanga tō rātou ingoa, ko te tuku whakamutunga.
Te tuku whakamutunga.
And nā reira tonu pēr te nui o Pōhutukawa. Ko te tuku whakamutunga. O te wairua, ka ngaro pēr te ingoa, ka ngaro te wairua o te tipuna rā, o te tangatara, ka tukuna ki te kupenga o taramainuku, ki te wakaharangi, e rā kōrero katoa. Nā reira, ka hāngai tonu te wairua o tērā mahi o Pōhutukawa, ki roto I awa, no taku rongo, I taku pāpā, e tangi ana. Mō nā karangatanga whanaunga, e ngaro atu nei I roto I te tau.
Ko tēnei te wā I te pakeke haere koe. So is this when you were growing up, your papa was still doing the practices they were only doing now?
Aye.
Wow. So again, as you're experiencing things now, there's a lot of things that you're witnessing as a youngster.
Aye.
you're realizing more and more the older you get and the more of this mātauranga that's coming to surface.
Aye. And
It
he
was
was
already being practiced.
Yeah, and he was sort of like a little bit like me, I guess. He just did it.
Haha.
He didn't explain anything. He just went ahead and did it. And if we wanted to understand how tana mai, we had to ask our mum, how the mai, and she was the one that explained how tana, you know, because you look at you and you see your dad crying, and she just said a name, you know, something, and he's crying and he's really wailing, and you think, gee, you get a bit scared as a kid, eh? It's like, oh, what the hell's happened? So ka pātai atu ki te mama, how te mate, you know, how te mate? And she would explain, he's saying his last farewells.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite emotional and nā reira I mai I tērā wā taino atu, you know, ki te hokitanga mai a rangi mā, a riki mā, e ko a rere ata mā, mō ngā maramatanga and hēni e mā and rātou. You know, that was something that resonated. It was one of those things I was saying, gee, I never used to have a relationship with the moon, and now, God, all these things come back and you suddenly realize, oh, nā reira tonu te karawara I tangi. And it became quite a significant memory that had an emotional connection to it. And so it really threw upon me the value of Pōhutukawa. You know, haunga te, and of course, you know, ngā tamariki a Matariki rā ko rehua, especially ko ma rehua, is a hauora thing. And of course, you know, when you get touched by that type of deep emotion that you've experienced, you know, he hauora anō tēnā.
Ai, hauora.
And so to know that that's the link with Pōhutukawa to that type of wairua hauora, emotional hauora, you know, he rangatira tonu te Pōhutukawa nei.
Ai, I think that's an important point there, eh? Because when we are sort of in the space of like grief or sadness or feeling a sense of despair because some have passed, or even just being in that state, it does have a weight that makes it challenging to either feel the senses of feeling happy or whatever it may be, because it's suppressed ne. And so having these spaces to tuku, you know, to have that whānau tuku is a way to bring us back into a state of wellness. And, you know, a tāhu e rā kōrero, because when we think about wellness, it's not just, you know, looking good or going to the gym. There's spiritual wellness, there's emotional wellness. And do you feel that's a space that you and Doctor Diana are sort of putting a lot of emphasis in around how can we have full well-being, not just focused on physical? Yeah.
I mean, one will feed the other, but yeah, I think that you're right. In our colonized state, that we've suppressed a lot of our emotional connection and the ability to be vulnerable and to be able to expose your vulnerability. We no longer privy, you know, we no longer value that. And I think,
why is that? Where do you think that's come from in terms of our?
I think it's come from the Stoic culture that's enveloped us here since in the arrival of colonization. It has a lot to do with the way that we behave now and how we perceive civilization, you know, sort of thing. But, you know, ko hoki ne tātou ki o tātou nei tangihanga, and 3 days of mourning and 3 days of pouring your heart out over the loss of your tipuna in the now, in the real time of tangihanga, and then it's experienced again either, you know, months or weeks down the track at te wao Matariki, when we do that again. But koera te, well, as far as my understanding, ko te mihi whakamutuka tērā.
Is there any atua that is related to vulnerability or courage, or when you're thinking about, I guess, that state of vulnerability? Because I think it might be helpful for tāne to, I guess, be open to that kind of kōrero, because there is a mentality around, oh, it's weak to cry, or we may not have seen examples of seeing what it's like to be emotional as a tāne. So is there any pūrakau or any kōrero that might relate to that comes to mind for you? Or
Yeah, I've got to really think about that now. There is, and ko te mātāmua o rātou, but not necessarily the vulnerability, but engari, and of course, this will grab you. Ko te mātāmua o rātou ko uru te nganga. And i te taki whawhai tuatai o o te whānau nei, no tona mātāmua ka tua ia ki te kōrero, engari no tērā wā, ko whiro te tipua te mea pirangi kia mau iaia a rātou. And so i te wā puta mai te kōrero a uru ki a rātou, hei taihua kei au pe me pēnei te pēr te whakaro. Ka mea no a whiro ki ai, a koa mātāmua koe me ture koe, māku e Māngai ngā whakaro mō tātou. And noro te i tērā ka ruma ki ai te tipuna rā ki te pauri. Me te kore mōheo me pēhe hoki te whakaututu i ngā kōrero pērā, i ngā tohutohu a whiro. Nā reira ka tino ruma ki ai i te pauri, me te pirangi kia motuhia te iho ki a rātou. Nā reira ka motu te iho ki a rātou ki te whānau, ka ngaro toa tua ia ki roto i te pōrāno, i raro i te kākau tuanui o ranginui. Ngaro no atu. And ka noho ia ki reira, hako i tai atu ai a tāne mā rātou mā ki te tiki ai, ki te hopu kōrero i ai, hopu whakaro i ai, ka rea pirangi te kuhu anō ki Wharenui a rātou.
wow.
Nā i ai e reira, ka tangitangi ai, ko ana roimata, ko karangatia nai ko purapura whetu. Ka rau atu ngā purapura whetu ki roto i ngā kete ewa. Ko tētai ko raururangi, nā ko te tikanga ke o tērā ingua raururangi, ko te rauru ko te spiral. Ko te kupurangi, ko ngā thoughts, the mind, eh? So, because he had the spiraling thoughts and mind, he was going round and round in circles in his misery. Nā reira ka tapai te kete rā ki te rā ingua, raururangi. So he had these 4 baskets. Eventually, ka wehe ai ngā mātua, and they were hoping to kia puta rātou ki te whaiao. But, Tāne had said to kia rātou, we have to flood ourselves in light. But when they separated their parents, they weren't flooded in light, they were flooded in tears and water. And so they then had to have a wānanga about how do we get to the light? How do we find light? And no one had an answer. So Tāne went to see Uru, because kāre te reo Uru ki reira. So Tāne goes to see Uru, and ka tae ki reira, ka kete hoki nei ngā kete, ana ka huaki mai ai te pōtai o te te o ngā kete, ka tira marama mai ngā whetu i roto nā.
Ngā whetu pura.
Ai. Nā reira ka, hako is talking about the vulnerability and the sadness of Uru. This is a silver lining that comes about from it. And so, ka mea, ka miharo tonu a tāne, because kei reira te utu mō tō rātou rarurara, te whaiao. So he, Tāne asked, how e ne mea? And ka ki mai, ko ngā roimata tērā o te mātāmua ko ngaro atu ia koutou, he pauri ana ia koutou. And ko aku tamariki ko ngā purapura whetu. And so, ka tono atu a Tāne mō ngā kete, mō ngā whetura. And Uru gave 2 of them, Raururangi and Tongotongo, to Tāne. Tāne took them and sprinkled all the asteroids and that across the aro o Ranginui, and hoping, oh yeah, we're going to have a beautiful light day tomorrow, but kare tino ka ngā asteroids, and so then the stars, same thing. I reira ka rui atu ngā whetū, and the same thing, not enough light. Then the moon, and a little bit more light, and not so far away, ki te puku o te pito o Ranginui, and then finally o te tamanui te rā, and then ka rau atu a tamanui te rā ki te poho o Ranginui, and this minute ka puta ki te whaiau.
Wow.
And ko ngā ke te eirua, ka whiu atu ki runga ki te rangi, and one became a galaxy at one side and the other became a galaxy on the other side. So the spiraling looking galaxy ko Raururangi.
Oh, holy.
Yeah, nā reira, that's the silver lining from this tipuna's grief, and the vulnerability that Uru was allowing Uru's self to show by gifting these baskets and the tears. So that's the vulnerability. I give to you my tears.
Tears that became stars.
They
then
stars.
became part of the world of light.
The world of light, yeah. Aye.
Because that's what vulnerability is, eh? It's a way to be able to reveal the challenges within. But in doing so, you're also blessed with the gift that comes along with that, ne?
Aye.
Wow.
So what we often say is, mea ka tangi o roto o mātou māua mai. Mea ka tangi mai te tahi takata. So they get to a point where something has triggered this emotion in them, the vulnerable emotion, and they become very, very sad and tearful and stuff like that. And in this modern world, we have this practice of giving them a tissue and then wiping away these tears. But kia mātou, oh, no. Those are the gold that we want. If you want wise counsel like from Uru, the tears are the wise counsel.
Because that's true vulnerability, ne? Rongo i e tai kōrero, because every time, say, someone's having a moment where they are vulnerable, whether that's through tears, whether that's through sadness, anger, whatever it may be, particularly in this setting, as soon as you give a tissue or as soon as you touch, you sort of break the moment for them because they're in a space of like feeling into whatever needs to be felt. But as soon as you touch, they're now thinking about, they've gone away from the way to a space saying, hey, come back near.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys try and also share within Mahi Atua? Is there when there's vulnerability being expressed, it's more so allowing them to have that space?
Yeah, you let them have that space because, and we try to promote it as wise counsel. Those tears are the exact thing that you want. That's where the wisdom of Uru is.
Uru.
Yeah. And Uru was one of those tipuna that even Rehua went to. So, I mean, when I say even Rehua, Rehua did not need to go there to seek counsel with Uru, but Rehua understood the wise observations that Uru had. And so Rehua chose, we will go and seek an audience with this tipuna and talk and gain some wisdom from Uru. And so this is why we say when there are tears that are falling from a person, that's the wise counsel that we're after.
I love that, kōrero, and that Pūrakau. And I thought to wrap us our kōrero i roto i tai kupu whakakapi is maybe you can add in there around what are you sort of seeing from when you were growing up to now? What are some of the things that you've liked about the change, but also what do you see moving forward? And maybe we can whakakapi i ngā kōrero i reira. Might be a big one, but,
I think one of the things that's really, really pleasing, and I've noticed it with other people that carry Pūrakau and Whakapapa and all that, is the it's awoken something in our people. At one time, Atua Tamariki tipuana, pērake te whakaaro he humbug katoa tēnā. I tipu anō au I te reanga e pōhe ana e humbug katoa ini. And I think that now that we've been able to throw the proper lens into the mix so that there's less misunderstanding and to be able to identify that many things got lost in translation. And, ko te kaha o te reanga Kōrero I te reo, te reanga kohanga reo, Pūrakau Māori e kaha nei te reo. It's allowed us to be able to swerve away from being lost in the translation. And of course, I o mātou wānanga e nui ngā tangata e pātai mai ki awa, what about ngā atua wahine? And there were atua wahine. There's just that there was this tendency that tōna, ona, ia, and all that got translated to him, her, and he. And so we've gotten, like I say, lost in that translation. And so even our reanga that's ka kahatunu rātou I te Kōrero Māori, they are also a reanga that has the ability to kuhu ki roto I ngā kōrero and to stoke the hunger of our people to be just curious about our whakapapa and mostly to be hungry to learn it. And because ka ki mai e te oku, gee, have you been down south? Because, matakai ana rātou ki ene o ngā kōrero. And of course, one of the things that is might be a little bit of a stumbling block, but I humble myself to it, is that people believe in their versions, and I totally get that. Pērā tunu I ngā karakia I homai e rangima, and they say, whakatai rāwhiti tia ngā karakia nei. And of course, that's so wonderful. It's pērā ki awa nei when I'm telling stories, and it's all about these things that we perceive are very, very tapu and so forth. And then I always say, Rangi Nui, one night, Rangi Nui went to a sugar nightclub and met Papa Tūnuku. So you try to talk in a way that makes the Pūrakau tapu nei enjoyable.
Enjoyable.
Yeah, and then we no longer fear because being lost in translation meant that meant for us over the generations that we feared our stories about our atua, and that things became too tapu and restricted, that we just didn't want to go near it. And so when you tell them that they met at a nightclub and fell deeply in love and then they had massive numbers of children, those sorts of things, or you share that you go from Tiki Tiki Orangi, which is just inland from Rangitukia, all the way, when you share it like that, it makes it enjoyable and approachable. And
you can touch it, ne?
Yeah, you can touch it and not believe it, but it's up to you to believe it, but you can relate to it. And so that's, those are some of the things that we've had to do. And, even with Moko, what we discovered in our journey early in the piece with Moko was that there was this painful creation of tikanga that kept us away from experiencing our glory with Moko. And so we had to get rid of a lot of this created tikanga because we found that while we were trying to breathe life into Moko, it was being strangled by the tikanga. And so we had to get rid of it and just strip it all away, and then get to a point where then we can look at making good decisions about what is the appropriate tikanga. But it had to be balanced and stuff like that. Anyway, so those are some of the things. I'm just really pleased, overwhelmed actually with with happiness that kei te ora tonu ngā pūrakau nei, kei te ora tonu te whakapapa, and they get an opportunity to nudge Red Riding Hood and Cinderella and that to the side, and that they become the major influential stories that our next reanga use in order to to live unapologetically Māori.
Oh, man, just fired me up. You just fired me up, and my children will be raised hearing stories from you, Mahi Atua, and all of the things that make us Māori. And so, it's just such a blessing to have you a part of this show, to be a part of this kaupapa, because of your story, because of all of the many chapters that have been pivotal for you, and you're at a stage of your life, I suppose, where you just want to give, you want to be able to give so much. And for the Planting Seeds podcast, for Seeds of Matariki, for this kaupapa, to have a part of that, no mātou, te tino hōnore, tira te marenga nui no reire pā, tēnā koe. Kia koutou. Thank you, fellas, for tuning in. Check out Mahi Atua if you want to be a part of everything that is being created. So, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora.